Welcome to Two Stoned Bastards. This is our fourth show, right, Jeff?
Yes.
Fourth show. I'm high. What do you expect? We are covering, two of my favorite movies, Black Sheep and Bad Taste.
Bad Taste.
Both New Zealand productions.
Yes,
Which one should we go with first, Jeff?
How about Black Sheep?
All right. You want to take us there?
There it is.
Oh, good poster, too.
Okay. Now, there are some movies out there where it's best to just ignore the story completely because it doesn't make any difference. There's no point trying to make sense of it. Black Sheep isn't quite to that level. There is a plot to it. There is a storyline. There's even an emotional through line to it of sorts. But essentially, it's about this guy who grew up on a sheep farm in New Zealand, had a traumatic experience, couldn't deal with sheep anymore. He became deathly afraid of them, moved away. It's now, 15 years later. His father has died. His brother is about to buy from him his half of the business. Now, unbeknownst to the main character, the brother had been doing some very bizarre experiments with the sheep. It just
What a nice couple.
It is. They're a very nice couple. I hear they're registered at Marcus, Neiman Marcus. So.
Yeah, too rich.
Yeah,
too rich for my blood.
Exactly. But the story goes rapidly downhill from there. In part because of this girl who, with her friend, are environmentalists trying to break the big story on the bizarre sheep experiments going on, supposedly. But
have you noticed that? Well, I was going to say, have you noticed that in most movies, when you're going to have an environmentalist, they're always like the hipsters with the fucking man bun or a hippie. So I know that's how it may have started out, but come on, I see a lot of environmentalists that are in suits and normal people.
Well, in a movie like this, I think they make the man bun such a character of scorn that the man bun fits. I guess.
True.
Because you see some schlub in a man bun, and you want to see him die horribly.
If I remember right, those sheep do fuck him up.
Oh, they fuck him up hard. Starting with this escapee from the lab, the one that's on his shoulder.
That is like the ugliest fucking... Well, that's like Jack's Chihuahua.
Yes, but that grows rapidly into this.
Not my idea of livestock.
No. That's for Jack's idea.
That ain't a sheep for loving.
No.
Too much attitude. Okay, so this one came out in 2006, I think. And again, it's New Zealand. I've got a soft spot for New Zealand horror, and that's thanks to Peter Jackson. So for me, if you were to come up and say, Dan, what's Black Sheep about? This is a fucking zombie movie, except they're not zombies, they're sheep. These things are fucking vicious. It doesn't take long. I'm trying to remember through the film, but somebody gets their arm ripped off pretty quick. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, this is the guy that feeds them. He takes it very personal. Hey, look at the one sheep. It looks like it's smiling. It's like, dinner time. That's almost scarier than anything else. This movie is pretty fast paced. When you get through the beginning, oh God, look at that critter. Ugh. Anyway, when you can get through the introductions of who's who, what's going on. I mean, if you're gonna watch this movie, you got to figure out something's going on behind the scenes. But when the sheep start turning, I believe it's nighttime, and I mean, you get every classic zombie trope: people running, people getting stuck in barely defendable places with no supplies. Sheep will tear you up, and at the bottom, or the subplot of it is, this was all because somebody was trying to make the super sheep, and their chemical process went wrong, and they're trying to cover it up. So you got the sheep trying to kill you, and you got the bad guys trying to kill you, and these poor folks are just trying to survive. Look at that. They can drive.
Driving trucks.
Holy sheep shit. I love this movie. I've seen it several times, but it's been a while since I've recently seen it. This is not, believe it or not, a Peter Jackson movie. That's an unfortunate stigma. As much as I love New Zealand horror, everybody automatically thinks it's him. But there is a tie-in with him. The shop he created to do the Lord of the Rings, the Weta shop. They took care of all the makeup and special effects, and even some of the digital. Not that this had many, but there were some digital shots. But it was mostly practical.
Yep.
Glorious. Digital would have been, the digital that, and I'm not even sure there was digital, but to me, some of the digital would have been the background, the landscapes and things like that. But yeah, it was very well done. It's a really good movie. It's well worth watching. I definitely put it up really high on my favorites list. I've decided I'm not giving anything stars or skulls or anything like that. I'm just going to simply say, if you're in a mood to watch a movie, you want some fun, Black Sheep should hit your list pretty high.
And if you're stoned,
it's a must see.
Fuck yeah.
Because it's also funny. It is a comedy. And there are a lot of sheep jokes, including the most basic sheep sex. But
there's a reason. It's a touching relationship.
Yeah, touching and dismembering.
Well, there is that.
Yeah,
there's always a downside.
Yeah, it can never have it perfect.
I know.
So, well, that's all I've got to say about Black Sheep. Definitely watch it.
Oh yeah, definitely watch it. And that brings us to dun dun dun. This, believe it or not, was my first encounter with Peter Jackson.
It was anybody's first encounter. This is Peter Jackson's first movie. So all you guys that think Lord of the Rings was it, there's 5 films prior to that, plus a mockumentary.
Yes.
And Bad Taste is it. I have loved this film since I seen it. I'll give you a little quickie story. I rented this from my local video rental back in San Diego. That probably would have been, I don't know, 86, 87, maybe even 88. I think it came out in 87. I loved this movie so much that I wanted to buy it. And I literally I cracked out almost $70 to get a copy of it. Because back then, if you bought a VHS, they weren't cheap. They weren't mass marketed yet. You had to pay what the video store paid. So to me, it was worth it. The other little bit tidbit is, as time came on and this became a cult classic, they changed the front box. The alien went from flipping you off to not flipping you off. So I had the original, fuck you. As a matter of fact, if you look over my head, let me see which way to move it. There it is, Bad Taste, right behind me on a poster, flipping you off with all its glory. So you want me to just go with all my factoids, or will you want to jump in and tell us what you thought? What you thought.
Well, in the first place, this is a true independent movie. That's Peter Jackson.
Yep.
That's also Peter Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
And so is that. He directed it. He wrote it. He shot it over like 3 years.
5 years.
5 years.
5 years took to get this done.
Yep.
Him and his friends.
Yep.
All the cool shit you see in here, like the house, the house that the aliens are living in that takes off.
Right.
The shootouts are happening. That's all miniatures that Peter Jackson built.
Mm-hmm.
And as a matter of fact, he worked at I think it was some type of film stock company. Those are film stock boxes that he used to build those things. This was also when Steadicam became used a lot. And, he didn't have money to do a Steadicam, and he's in New Zealand. They probably didn't even have one in the country at the time. So he built one out of wooden springs. He built his own track system, for the pan shots. He built everything he needed. I watched the documentary, and when I first saw the documentary, it was a documentary, but it was a 30-minute TV show in New Zealand, and somebody had recorded it, and it got out onto the internet, and I wound up getting it. Peter Jackson was talking about why the aliens' heads looked the way they did. Because if you notice, it kind of slopes back a bit. Well, that's because the original sculpture wouldn't fit into the oven. So he had to squish it down to put it into his mother's oven to bake the foam prosthetics. And of course, the mother is laughing because she's like, it was a real pain in the ass because he's in there baking this smelly ass foam latex. And then she had to cook dinner, which terrifies me.
It had to stink up the joint.
When you are curing foam latex, it smells like, it's not really rotten eggs. It's a close smell, but it's something else. It permeates everything. I was so happy when I had finally gotten an oven to put in my shop so I can bake all my foam away from the fucking house, because it just stunk up the whole fucking house. But yeah, so, that alone, Peter Jackson became a legend to me off of this one movie. And then to prove his worth, he followed it up with something more twisted and sick, which is basically the Muppets on drugs. Yeah, and that was Meet the Feebles. Yeah, we'll have to do a show on that because that is another stoner movie that you have to see. Although you're going to rewind it a lot because you'd be like, "Wait, what the fuck's happening?" Some of the weird stuff happens. So
a good puppet movie.
Yeah. So Bad Taste in itself is about a special ops group led by Peter Jackson and his friends. I don't know all their names.
But I don't either.
The boys, yeah. Going into a town where it's suspected aliens have taken over. The characters are just over the top funny. Even in their dialogue, they're not taking this. I mean, they're taking their movie serious, but their characters are very cliche action. The guy in the red shirt, he's Mr. Action Hero. There's your Arnold right there. Guy in the black shirt, he's more the brainiac, but just as deadly with the weapons. They had a third guy too. He always looked like he should have been in the Beatles with the beard mustache combo he had.
Yeah.
But these guys were all about weapons and bullets. The other character that stands out is the preacher that is going. Yeah, he's collecting. You know, he hangs things on the doorknobs of the houses and he's collecting the donations. What he's doing with those donations, nobody knows. Doesn't matter because he gets captured and finds himself in a boiling pot.
Hate when that happens.
Yeah, you know, when you wake up like that, it's never a good thing.
You wake up to find yourself on the menu. Not a good day.
Exactly. So the aliens are here because they are part of an intergalactical fast food restaurant, and the humans are the meat. So they're harvesting.
Yes.
This again, there's Peter Jackson in the boy's role. Peter Jackson is also one of the aliens, not in mask, but he's like part of. Yep, there he is. Practical effects, man, they were so good in this film. Look at that. Look at that head.
It's awesome.
You know, when you see somebody that can just put the time and effort in to make things like this, it's amazing. No wonder he became a superstar. Yeah.
That chunk in his hand is a chunk of his brain that he constantly has to stuff back into his skull.
By the way, Peter Jackson character really goes off the deep end after this little accident where he's constantly keeping his brains put in.
Yeah,
it just does some of the most insane shit. Man, you got chainsaws, you got oh god, the puke scene. Yeah, remember when Peter Jackson alien character is actually the one cooking it he cooks it in his stomach and he vomits it out into a big bowl. And they all take sips to eat it. And then one of the boys is in that line undercover and has to eat it. So he likes it.
Yeah, you know, and this is a movie that absolutely lives up to its name.
Yeah, it'll gross you out. There are times you're just going to be going, "Oh God, you did not. You didn't do it."
Yes, they did.
Yes, they did. Peter Jackson. He's awesome. So so in my land, if they're all like, dude, I'm getting stoned this weekend, what should I watch? This would actually take number one in my place. Bad Taste. Go for that first. So.
Yeah, it's one of those. I love, the independent nature of this. The original Halloween, Robert Rodriguez's El Mariachi. These real independent guerrilla filmmaking
who actually have the vision and talent to pull it off. That's the big thing. When VHS became a household thing, a lot of people made their own movies. Most of them were horrible. Some of them were pretty decent. But then you get these few people that popped up that were literally, you knew they were going to go on to bigger things because what they did was so amazing for near nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Robert Rodriguez, when he did El Mariachi, he literally sold his body for medical experiments. That's how he got money to make that movie.
It paid off. And thankfully, nothing weird happened to him. But that's the dedication that we know of. So,
and both these guys, Robert Rodriguez, Peter Jackson, are now both at the top of the business.
Yeah, they excelled. They're among the Spielbergs, who was another one who grew up making his own movies and learning it as he went, figuring it out. And
Jackson didn't go to Hollywood.
No.
Neither did Rodriguez. Rodriguez stayed in Austin, Texas,
where he is still
today. Yes.
Yeah, he is still there.
He has his own studio.
And see, that's the other thing I like about these guys. You know, even Peter Jackson, when he got his first taste of working for the Hollywood machine, that was the last time. He's like, fuck this. If I'm going to do this again, I'll take your money. You'll stay the fuck over there. We're going to film it here.
That was what, Frighteners?
Frighteners.
Which is a good movie.
I liked it. A lot of people didn't, but I thought it was really good. And the extended version, or the original version, we'll say, is still fantastically good. I can see why some of the stuff was cut, but there are some scenes that I'm like, you know, that actually would have been cool, but I get you cut it. You know, the giant Cupid was not quite up to the standards of the rest of the film. So, kudos for cutting it, but I'm glad I got to see it. Peter Jackson bounced around. I mean, he went from the extreme sci-fi gore horror, and then he went into puppet depravity with Meet the Feebles.
He did an actual zombie.
And everybody here will know it as Dead Alive. Original title, the uncut version, is called Brain Dead. That is not available here. And it's even hard to get from overseas. But if you search around, you can find it. He also did a film, Heavenly Creatures. It's based on a true story, but I wouldn't really call it a horror movie. But it was a fantastic movie. And I think that's the one that got him noticed to where they wanted to give him money for Frighteners. And then, of course, he was in the runnings for The Lord of the Rings. But I think...
he saw that with Jurassic Park. And Terminator 2 and The Abyss. He saw what you could do with digital effects.
Yes.
And Peter Jackson essentially created his own film industry.
He did.
Down in New Zealand.
He did.
And he and his wife and one other woman sat down and broke Lord of the Rings down. Because he figured, okay, we now have virtually anything we want, we can turn it into a movie. What's the biggest thing we could possibly do? And he said, Lord of the Rings. Boom.
Yeah.
Whatever you say about that movie, about the story, that is an incredible piece of filmmaking.
It is
incredible.
And that again was based on a story that would be easy to screw it up on film.
And people have done it before.
Yeah. I mean, I remember watching the animated Hobbit.
Ralph Bakshi.
Yeah, and that's what I grew up on. That was my introduction to that writer, Tolkien, right?
Tolkien, yeah.
Yeah, and I immediately went out and got the book. And being a teenager, I struggled to get through the book. I didn't have the attention span for reading that type of material at the time. But Peter Jackson did it right.
Yeah, I found The Two Towers, the second book in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I found it in the school library and tried reading it. And of course, it made no sense. Then
it's hard to read.
Well, I mean, it's in the middle of a trilogy. So, of course, it didn't make any sense. But then I discovered more about Tolkien and that The Hobbit was the first book. So I went and I picked up The Hobbit and fell in love.
Yeah.
And just went from there. And Peter Jackson absolutely did a marvelous job with Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
The Hobbit, not so much.
I didn't enjoy the Hobbit films as much as I liked the Lord of the Ring films.
Yeah.
It had its charms. Maybe it was just because it was kind of overload for me. I don't know.
They expanded the story more than they needed to.
It did quite a bit.
To make it into 3 movies.
Right. That might have been not a good decision, but I get why they wanted to do it that way. Peter Jackson did a mockumentary called Forgotten Silver. Have you ever run across that one?
I haven't seen that one.
I only bring it up because we're talking about the vision that the guy has. I thought this was a real documentary when I first started watching it. It was that good. And it's all about the expedition to find this canister of film. It was awesome. No gore, no horror, it was just a mockumentary. And it's well worth seeing if you can dig it up. Yep, another one of those awesome fucking practical effects. I think about the only Peter Jackson film I wasn't that happy with was actually King Kong. Although I think him doing it, the overall, changing it from just going through a cloud to get into Skull Island to, all those jagged rocks that look like skulls and scary shit. I mean, he really did a good job at it.
Yeah, but then he went and cast Jack Black.
Okay, thank you for saying that. I have a lot of friends that are fans of that guy. I'm not. I've never liked him. I never thought he was funny.
In High Fidelity, the John Cusack movie, Jack Black plays a secondary supporting character, and he's awesome in it. You put him in a starring role, and he just just doesn't do it.
It just felt like he was trying to be different comedians instead of himself.
Yeah.
Even now when I see him perform, I'm just like, why are you trying to be Jim Carrey? You're too fat.
Yeah,
I could say that I'm fat. But if I can't shit on King Kong too much because it really was a leap and bound of all the previous King Kongs made. Although the original Harryhausen King Kong, favorite, love it.
I don't think that was Harryhausen. I think
didn't he make Kong?
I think he was inspired by Kong.
Okay, I thought he was one that actually built and articulated Kong.
No,
okay.
I think he learned from that guy. He saw that movie because we're talking 1932.
Yeah, exactly. And I finally got to see the uncut. What I always saw it on TV Saturday morning,
right?
Saturday morning for us, it was called The World Beyond. That's where you got to see your horror movies, your Hammer movies, Universal Monster. So thinking back to filmmaking back in the 30s, I was delighted when I got to see the giant foot squash the poor tribesman. I laughed. Yeah. Wasn't even stoned. I laughed. I'm like, perfect. It's kind of like, go ahead.
Yeah, the original King Kong, I think, explains a lot about me because my dad used to wake me and my brother up. For some reason, in Chicago, King Kong periodically would show at like 10 o'clock on a Friday night. And my dad would make me and my brother go to bed early so we'd get a few hours of sleep. Then he'd wake us up and let us watch King Kong with him.
That's cool.
And I was like 6 years old, 7 years old at the time.
See, that's the perfect time, too. I bet you loved the movie.
Oh, yeah. Didn't scare me. It was just awesome.
Yeah, see, the same thing. It's not a scary movie to me, but it is the best. I mean, it's just really cool. King Kong, the original King Kong, got me into Jason and the Argonauts and all the other stop motion movies. That was definitely Harryhausen. So good shit for when you're stoned, folks.
Yes, indeed.
Make popcorn, eat some pizza, hit a bowl. You're ready to go.
Ready to go. Got the hemostats ready.
Oh, God. What are you doing over there that you have that? Oh, is that your roach for your roach?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
These are the best roach clips you can get. Barry Hemostats. It's
I guess I was a dumb teenager. The most classy way we could do it was with these chopsticks that one of our friends had. I don't even know why he had them. Here, hold the roach in this. I'm like, really? We can't see it because of the poster, but
yeah. But anyway, that pretty much covers it, I think.
We're done with episode 4. This is awesome. This is something you guys should do for the weekend.
Black Sheep and Bad Taste, man. Can't go wrong.
Yep. Get double high for a double feature.
That's right.
Yeah, this might be the edibles time.
It could be. I've never tried that. I should.
Well, it's a double feature. You're looking at about 4 hours, and edibles will run about 4 hours. Yeah. Could work.
There you go. All right. Well, until next time, folks, we are 2 stone bastards and a bucket of popcorn.